unreadable, and that unreadable format is called ciphertext. Like for example, if I was sending hello to a friend, so this hello will be converted into ciphertext, like say example KHOOR. So ciphertext is like, it's not readable by anyone, it's only readable by my friend, which have the key. So after this process, encryption process, next step is like decryption, where ciphertext is converted back into plain text. So the receiver, my friend, he will be or she will be having the key, and by knowing that key, he or she can reverse the process, like KHOOR will be converted into hello again.
Right.
Yeah. And in here we can use different key, like key is generally a piece of like information which can be into like number, word, or a string or a character. So yeah, so this is the process of whole cryptography.
Okay. Nice example, Rajshri.
Thank you, Bharat.
So in any requirement in our network infrastructure, do we require this? Is it necessary to implement cryptography, or can we do the communication without use of cryptography?
So if you want to secure communication, like in the banks, or like we want to secure our passwords and everything, credit card numbers, so yeah, we use cryptography in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And any other applications that can be used?
I think I've learned about AES, like Advanced Encryption Standard, which this, I think this algorithm is mainly used in real world nowadays.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yes, Yamini.
Yeah, my topic is importance of cryptography. So
Mm-hmm.
the importance of cryptography ensure confidentially by encrypting sent message using an algorithm with a key only known to the sender and recipient. A common example of this the message tools WhatsApp, which encrypt conversation between people to ensure they cannot be hacked or in, inter, inter, intercept, encrypted. Sorry,
Intercept.
intercept. Why is cryptography important? So cryptography is a essential cybersecurity tools. Its use means that the data user have an additional layer of security that ensure privacy and confidentially and help keeps data from being stolen by cyber criminals.
All right.
Yeah. And there are many examples like a confidentially integrity of data, authentications, non reputations, and there are three types of cryptography:
Mm-hmm.
symmetrical key cryptography, as asymmetric key cryptography, and hash functions. And
Right.
there are, yeah.
Okay. Any examples? Yeah, to other question to both of you, right?
Mhm.
In which scenarios we
Mhm.
can use cryptography?
Cryptography we can use like when you send the message in a WhatsApp, when you like for example, WhatsApp message, just only the person can read who the person sent the message to the other person, but no
Right.
one read this message. That means this is very secure communication. Only two in between two people. No any other person can join or hack the things.
So whenever you chat on video call on WhatsApp, you get the notification like your conversation is end to end encrypted,
End to
right?
end. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the messaging app, right? Any
Mhm.
other case where we can apply the cryptography?
We can use in digital signature and VPNs as well.
Yeah, right. We
Yeah.
can use it in digital signatures.
Yeah. And Bharat, I just watched video today in the morning.
Mhm.
What is cryptography currency? Like, is it different type of currency or like वो थोड़ा नहीं समझ में आया.
Cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah, cryptocurrency. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, not yeah, crypto.
So cryptocurrency is like a combination of blockchain, right?
Hmm.
So it is a made up of the information is uh, information is created in the form of small blocks, right? And the it has two parts. One is head, one is tail, and middle one is your information, right?
Hmm.
So lots of the companies are now moving towards the blockchain technologies also for retrieving for securing their data. How it is working like, so your head contains the address of the front node and tail contains the address of the last node, right?
Hmm.
And the middle part is your information, right, which we call it as the integrity of that data is maintained with the help of hash codes, right?
Hmm.
So that each and every blocks in that chain is verified by a hash codes, right?
Hmm.
So if any of the block hash code is what we can say tampered, right, the whole blockchain network got
So,
gets disrupted, right? So this
yeah.
is how blockchain is working, right? But cryptocurrency is working on some kind of algorithms, right, where we can
Hmm.
you need to mine some coins and all that. So that's the different thing, right? But the what we can say, the concept is used on based on this cryptography only,
Hmm.
right?
Okay, so yeah, Bharat, this one Bitcoin is an example of cryptocurrency, right?
Yes, Bitcoin is an
Yeah.
example of
Mm.
So,
cryptocurrency.
Bharat, each and every blocks we have to open, so we have to use the hash key. That yeah.
Yes, each and every block is verified with a hash key.
So whenever we have to open like a one by one block, so we have to use the coding system.
Yes, it is purely based on coding system. So it
Yeah.
is a type of virtual or digital currency that uses cryptography for the security, right?
Mm-hmm.
So traditional currency uses the issued by the government, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But cryptocurrency are operated on decentralized network, right? For example, blockchain technologies, a distributed ledger that records all the transaction across the network of the computers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
blockchain is underlying technologies behind the cryptocurrencies. So it's decentralized and distributed across the digital ledger, and that records transactions across the multiple computers so that the records cannot be altered without the alteration of the subsequent blocks, right? So any of the blocks is altered without any permission of the subsequent blocks, the whole chain the blocks after that particular block is got discarded, because at that moment the block is got altered, right? So each block in the chain contains the list of transactions, right? So blockchain is working like that. It is a combination of the transactions, right? And once the block is completed, it is added to the chain in a linear or chronological order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this way, each and every block in that particular blockchain is created and verified by a hash codes, right?
So this
So it is
crypto,
a Mhm.
sorry.
Yes,
So
yes,
this
go ahead.
currency is only use governments and big companies only.
This the Bitcoin cryptocurrency is not used by government. It is
Oh,
it is not legal. In short, we can say that.
okay.
But
Okay. Okay.
it has captured the market in such a way that if you blacklist this cryptocurrencies, the whole market get disrupted with due to that, right? Because the large amount of investment of the big companies are done in this cryptocurrency. So it it's difficult for any government to blacklist the cryptocurrencies, right?
Hmm.
So we can say that it's like financial system which is centralized, which can be managed by the, what we can say, yeah. So it's like, it's unlike the traditional financial systems, which is what we can say, the centralized. But it was managed by the banks, right? But now in this scenario, it is not managed by the bank, but it is decentralized, right? Each block in the blockchain contains the list of transactions, and once the block is complete, it is added into the that particular chain in chronological order, right? So for mining that cryptocurrency, for earning that cryptocurrency, you need to mine the uh, mining process is required to be done using the computer and power supply, right? With complex mathematical algorithms and all that, and that transactions are done on the network, and once the problem is fixed, the miner is awarded with some amount of cryptocurrencies and all that, right? in order to in order to manage that cryptocurrency, we need uh, for managing our cash in banks, we use bank account, right? So for managing cryptocurrency, they are using the crypto wallets, right? Which is a digital tools that allow you to send, receive, and store the cryptocurrencies, right? So it
Yes.
wallet stores the public and yeah, see, here is also for implementation of wallet, there comes the private and public keys, right? That is necessary to conduct the transactions, right? And these there are different types of wallet, including some kind of hardware wallets with like physical device, a software wallets, right? Some applications you might have heard about, like OKX and other other what we can say, the cryptocurrency wallets and all that, right? And the some popular Bitcoin currencies are cryptocurrencies are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge coins, and all that, right? So they use they use the methodology of collecting the information of the transactions, and it is the collection of the transaction, and each block contains the address of the preceding and the post block address also, right? So once it is the transaction list is completed, right, the whole block is verified with the help of hash codes, right? And then the next block in the chain is start to prepare, right? Is it clear?
Yeah, yeah.
So there are some what we can say, programming languages that are used to create the blockchains. One of the most widely used is the volatility, right? It's
Hmm.
the widely used programming language for creating the blockchains and all that, right? Sometimes we use Python as well as JavaScript also for creating the blockchains and all that,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? So it is a kind of represent a new and transformative approach to money and finance, offering the greater security and transparency and autonomous compared to the traditional financial systems, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Correct. So it
Hmm.
is purely based on the cryptography, right? Cryptocurrency, because there is lots of transaction is going on, right? And in order to maintain the legitimacy of some transaction, right, the cryptography is the only way to maintain the integrity of the transactions,
Hmm.
right? Where in cryptography we use private keys and public keys, right, in order to maintain the integrity of the data, right? So let's move on to our sixth module, right, which is web security, right? So first of all, what is web application security, right? So it is a we can say that the web application security is the process practice of protecting the web application from the threats and vulnerabilities that could be unauthorized access or data breaches and other security incidents, right? So given the increasing reliance on the web application for everything on the banking, online banking to e-commerce, right, ensuring their ensuring their security is critical. And here is the some comprehensive issues of web application security which we are going to discuss in this session, right? So first of all, what is web application? Any idea about what is web application?
Like all the platform, as you have already shown the examples, definitely.
All the platforms are considered what kind of platforms?
Any, like as you have already given the examples, email, Google, then Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
any other platform which we use for work on
Networking.
daily basis. It's all web application which is held online.
Right.
Yes.
So it is a software program, right, which can be created with the help of HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, right? So it is a kind of a web server and can be accessed through web browser over internet, right? And unlike traditional web applications which are installed on computer, right? So some web applications are hosted on the server, correct? And requires no installation on user devices. Is it clear? So if you require any kind of Google application to be installed on your device to access the Google, right? No, we don't require any kind of exe file to be installed on our system, right? So web application is the server based software program, right? So for example, many of them may have used the right, tele accounting software, or you might have heard about that. So if you want to
Yeah,
if you want to use the tele accounting software on your system, you have to install an exe file on your system, right? Or
true.
any kind of in schools and all that, we might use some fee collection softwares, right? Or in shops and all that, we use billing softwares and all that, right? So for to use those platforms, we need to we require to you install those particular software on our local system, right? But web application is a software program which doesn't require to be installed on your local system. It is installed once it is installed on your server, it is available to all the users through internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So user interact with these applications through web interface, right? Like browser and all that, right? And these applications are made with the help of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? And which protocol is used to access these website with web applications? Which protocol is used to access the web
Could you
applications,
could you
websites?
could you ask again the question, boy? I was in the bus, so I couldn't
Yes,
hear.
yes. In order to access your websites on internet, which protocol is used?
HTTP,
Protocol.
Exactly,
HTTPS.
exactly, exactly.
HTTPS.
HTTP and
Yes,
HTTPS,
yes, yeah.
right? So, these are some examples, right? These are some examples that we might have been used in daily purposes, like what Gmail or Google Docs, Facebook, Amazon for e-commerce and say purchasing the online purchase, right? Netflix, we is the widely used platform for what we can say the entertainment and all that, right? So if you look at the architecture, right? So how these applications work, right? So they mainly follow the client server architecture, right? Netflix, for example, Netflix, right? So Netflix may have its own server, right, which is installed. Netflix application is installed on particular server, correct? And in order to access through your laptop, right, you doesn't require to install anything. You just need to type netflix.com, right, and you will get the access with your username and password, right? So some kind of request and response is happening, kind of interaction is happening with the your Netflix server and your system, correct, with the help of username and password, right? So some kind of uh, whenever you are talking about the web application, right, you are going to follow some kind of client server architecture, right? So you are going to put some request on the server, and server will give you some result based in the form of response based on your request on the HTML pages, right? So this is how a web application is working, right? So you might have heard about the type of web application, static and dynamic, right? So static web applications are those applications which we can say that portfolio management services, right? So you just once you create the website, and you host it on the server, no changes is required on that particular server, so it is static, right? And second type of web application is called the dynamic web application, right? So dynamic web application is like uh, real-time user input applications, like online booking system, right? And banking system is also a kind of dynamic website, right? So where a user interacts with the system through some kind of forms, or by filling some username and password and all that, right? But in static websites, static web application, once you prepare the website, there is nothing to be no interaction between user and server, just for the portfolios, they for displaying the services of the company, we use the static application, right? So now we can say that this is the some common example of web application, right? You Now, why it is important to secure your application, right? These points are already discussed by us in last lectures, right? So there are lots of the, what we can say, intruders are trying to get the unauthorized access of your web applications or websites, right? So some, we can say that the data breaches, loss of data breaches means exposing your sensitive data, such as personal information or financial information or intellectual properties, right? So it is important to secure these information from breaches, right? Once this data gets breached, right, the lot of the implication can be happen with that particular organization, right? Once a data breach is happened, right, there is loss of reputation, right? No customer is going to trust the particular company, right? Because that their private information is got disclosed in front of the attackers, right? Due to the loss of reputation, they are not going they're going to face the huge financial losses, right? Because they new client will not going to approach that particular company, because they have already lost their trust, right? So gradually they are going to lose their business. And due to these kind of breaches, loss of reputation and financial loss, there is a lot of operational disruptions and downtime of the systems. Legal formalities are also a part of these attack, for these type of attacks, right? That's why it is very important to maintain the application security of your web application, right? So there are multiple types common, what we can say, the applications security threats, like we have already discussed some of the attacks, like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, broken access
Loss.
control, and all that, right? ransomware, malwares, and all that. These are
Yes.
some common attacks that we have already learned, right? And due to which if you are not maintaining the proper security of your web application, your data, your website is becoming vulnerable to these type of attacks, right?
Mm.
So in this session, you are going to learn about what are the most common vulnerabilities of your web application, right? Which was designed by OWASP, right? OWASP is a non-profit organization, right? Which means that Open Web Application Security Project, right? So OWASP has designed some most common 10 types of vulnerabilities, which can be most widely recognized and used as a standard for web applications. So each and whenever you are creating a web application, right, these 10 common types of vulnerabilities are tested by the pen testing engineers, right? So that in future, whenever in future this proper security of your website is maintained and proper mitigation steps are taken care of, right?
Mm.
Correct. So
Yeah.
there are some examples, we can say that due to which these these breaches and all that, some consequences were happened with the a real life example of web application security issues like Equifax data breach, which was happened in 2017, right? So what happened at that time, Equifax is using their web application, right? And they have used the Apache framework, right? Apache server. And attacker tried to utilize that Apache vulnerabilities, right? And it allowed attackers to execute arbitrary codes, right? Leading to the exposure of personal information of almost 147 million people, right? So what is the exact reason behind this breach is they they have not properly managed their patch on their software software component, right? So patch management is already discussed in our previous sections, right? While we are discussing about the operating system, right? So see how important the patch management is. Due to lack of a single patch, they have lost the data of 147 million people, right? See how huge amount of information was disclosed in front of the attackers, right? So what attacker did, they have just take the data of the 147 million people and put on the dark web for selling that particular data, right? And these type of information, to purchase these type of, there are thousands of people who wants this information in order to do some kind of frauds and all that, right? Another breach was happened with the Capital One, right, in 2019, right? So the first one, Equifax one, was due to the management of the patch, right? The Capital One was breach was done because of the misconfiguration in their web application firewall, right? Right, you might have heard about the firewall, right? It is a layer of security which
Mm.
Yes,
was
Yes.
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 provided at the edge of the your web application, right? So whatever incoming and outgoing traffic is going through the firewall will keep track, right? What is the legitimate traffic? They will block unnecessary unwanted users and all that, right? From for getting into their web application, right? So in their web application firewall, they have misconfigured some rules in that, right, which allowed the attacker to access the sensitive information of their AWS S3 bucket. Means AWS means they have Capital One have hosted their services on Amazon Web Services Cloud, right? On S3 bucket. S3 bucket is a kind of what we can say, a container, right? Where I have purchased my space and I have hosted my resources on that S3 bucket, right? So, which almost 100 million customers were affected by that particular data breach, and that happened just because of a single misconfiguration that was happened on the web application file, right? And one more mistake that was done by them was they have not properly they have not regular they were not we can say that regular audit and configuration reviews were not done by them regularly, right? Due to which they have lost the data of 100 million customers, right? And one last breach just I want to discuss is with British Airways in 2018, right? The attacker exploited the airline web application to inject malicious code, right? It's an example of SQL injection, right? And they try to inject some malicious script and steal the payment card information from the customer, right? So in all the data breaches, right, if you look at the scenario, the attacker is trying to exploit the vulnerabilities, correct?
Yes.
If you are not aware about those particular vulnerabilities, it's hard for any of the security analyst to to mitigate to find out the mitigation steps for that particular data breach, right? So today's session is mainly focused on what the main things are the what are the most common 10 types of vulnerabilities, right? And OWASP is the non-profit organization who have discovered the most common 10 type of vulnerabilities, right? And also suggested their mitigation steps, correct? So first one is the, see, these are the 10 most common vulnerabilities, right? So first one is the broken access control, right? Let me share one slide with you. It has the best example to demonstrate the broken access control. Just a moment. Yeah. Yes. Right. So broken access control is, we can say that there is a resource, two resources, right? Two systems trying to share some data, right, with each other with some encryption keys, right? And a person is trying to intercept from the middle and wants to access the data of that particular user, correct? So this is simple example of what we can say broken access control, right? So just a moment. Right. So broken access control is actually a security vulnerability, right? That occurs in web application that does not properly enforce the restriction, correct? Means here here comes with the problem of authentication and authorization, right? Correct. Means that you are not verifying the user properly, right? You are not verifying the login credential of the username and password, right? And and you are not able to authenticate the user, that who are the authorized user to modify the certain data and all that, right? So what is happening over here, to enforce the secure restriction on what authenticated users can do and leading to unauthorized access of your data and functionality, right? So in simpler terms, we can say that it happens when user can access their area of the system they should not allow to, right? For example, I am the developer, right? I am developing a website, right? And my manager is managing the project, right? So roles and responsibility of manager is something different than me, right? And if I am trying to use the roles and responsibility of my manager, right? That's the best example of what we can say the broken access control. Means I am violating the rules of the system, right? Which I am not allowed to access the resources of my manager, right? Why it is happening, right? So it is because of improper authentication, correct? Login with username and password, right? um, Application might have not allowed, means the password complexity of not maintained by the web application, right? And the authorization determines that the authenticated user is allowed to do which which we can say proper permissions were not granted to that particular user, and proper restriction were not applied to particular user, right? So it's not like that if you're working in an organization, so same level of access is you are have is the same level of access is maintained by the CEO or CFO, right? Both of their level of access is different, correct? Those resources which can be accessed by CEO, you that information cannot be accessed by you, right? So that kind of restrictions were not maintained in the broken access control, right? Correct. So simple example is the we can say a user can access the resources that belongs to another user with the same privileges, right? So one user viewing another private user's message is like this, is like simple as that, right? So what impact does it have created, right? The unauthorized access of the sensitive data, right? Which could be a financial record, a personal record, or a project details and all that, right? If there are multiple teams working in an organization, right? If you are working in in production environment, in production team, you are not authorized to see the data of marketing department, right? So that reveals the data of the information of other departments, right? Unauthorized access can also be one of the major impact of broken access control, right? Means if I can access the the resources of the other department, i may have the I may have the permission to delete that data or changing the user roles and all that, right? So these are some impacts of broken access control, and one is the compromise of entire system, right? Which particularly in administrative function, and it is accessible to the non-admin user also, right? So we how we can prevent this? Is there any way to prevent? Like if you are mm, suppose for example in an organization, right? If you want to prevent broken access control, right, means you are going to apply some kind of access policies on the user, right? Correct? Is it clear?
Yeah.
So for example, a developer is having some access to suppose SOPs, standard operating procedures, or we can say the development strategies, product development strategies and all that, right? So what I'll do, I will provide a role-based access control. If a person is developer, he should have access to some resources of your company, right? It must not access the resources of the CEO or a manager or other department, right? So one solution is to provide a role based access control to the employees in an organization, right? Second thing is to design a application to deny access of resources and function by default, only allowing the users to uh, access if the user requires explicitly permits, right? So what is happening, suppose for example, I need access of production environment for 10 days, right? I'm a person of marketing department, correct? Right? I'm the company is in the business of producing some product, right? And I'm a person from marketing department, right? So in order to manage the stock and the sale purchase of the company, right, I for some time being, I need the access of production environment. Mean what, how much amount of products are manufactured by the company, what are in stocks, and what are strategies needs to be made in order to sell those particular product through marketing strategies, right? Correct. So for example, I need an access of production department for 10 days, right? So I there will if I do manually, right? So there must be a person who keeps eye on me, right? From 25th to 5th of September, this person must be allowed to access these resources, right? So in order to simplify this, what I can create one application, right, which allows a person to access the resources of particular department for particular time frame. Once the time frame is over, that that application will revoke all the rights of that particular person from the production department. As simple as that, right? Once the time frame of 10 days is completed, I will not have access to the access of production department, right? This is the second way to prevent the broken access control, right? Third thing is to give some secure coding practice, right? So we need to avoid some exposing data identifiers in URL, right? So if you look, sometimes if you look into the browser, right, you might have seen some kind of queries in the browser, right? Browser means in the URL bar, right? So at that time, you must avoid such kind of queries to be revealed in the in the URL bar of your browser, right? Which will not allow the explicit user to modify those queries or those URLs in the and can get the server side access of that application, right? Is it clear? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Bharat.
Right?
Yeah.
So regular audit and updates is also one kind of what we can say, the process to avoid the broken access control. And last thing is monitoring and logging. Means there must be some kind of security monitoring, right, which will monitor the unauthorized access of the resources in real time, right? Which what we are going to do like that. Means a person is trying to access some kind of resources which is not authorized to that particular person. There must be a system or person who is keeping track of that employee and keep tracking and notifying it to the management, like these and so employees trying to access that particular resources in your environment, right? So this is all about the broken access control. Means if you are trying to access some resources which is not of your roles and responsibilities, right? So it is called an unauthorized access of data and functionalities, right? It caused due to some improper authentication and authorization, right? And there are some mitigation steps, right? Like we can implement the role-based access control, and we can use an application to deny the resources request, right? And we can also use the secure coding practices in order uh, to avoid exposing the details in the URL bars, right? And regular audits and monitoring are some steps that can be followed with broken access control. Is it clear?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. If you have any doubt, please interrupt me anytime, right?
Mm.
So second thing is the cryptographic failure, right? Any idea about cryptographic?
It is
Cryptography.
kind of the no.
Sorry. Hello. So cryptography failure occurs. See, whenever the word comes cryptography, there is some kind of mechanism is going on, right? In order to protect the data, right? Some kind of private key or some kind of public key or some kind of what we can say the mechanism encryption and decryption in
Hmm.
order to protect the data, right? So cryptographic failure can happen in various for various reasons like incorrect implementation, right? Or you might be using the outdated algorithms, right? Improper key management, right? So these are some reasons behind the cryptographic failure, right? So due to which using weak and outdated algorithm, the cryptographic algorithms are what were once considered for secure may no longer be reliable. For example, if you are using older algorithm of MD5, right? Managed digest algorithms, right? So there are on daily basis the companies who have created this MD5 and MD5 algorithm is on daily basis they are trying to research more about more capability of MD5, right? And try to update the functionalities of the MD5 algorithm, right? So for example, company is keeping track of all the algorithms they have prepared, all the versions of the algorithms that they have prepared, right? Means for example, if I use the algorithm MD5 algorithm 5 years back, means for example the in 2020, right? So that particular algorithm of 2020 MD5 may have other capabilities, and after 5 years MD5 algorithms may have other capabilities, right? So the key cause of cryptographic failure is maybe using the outdated version of your algorithm, right? Second thing is the improper key management, right? So for example, we have seen the example of Google, correct? So what is happening? The Google is trying to manage their private keys and public key with the user, right? By implementing the SSL or transport layer security, right? So keys are the central, we can say the main, we can say that the integral part of the cryptography, right? So if the keys are not properly managed, right? For example, in place of private key, public key, Google may have shared the private key of that uh, of that transport layer security, mean of that tunnel, right? So private key is revealed in front of everyone, right? Which can be used by the attackers to intercept your data. Once the attacker gets the private key, it becomes very easy for attacker to compromise your data, right? So there must be a proper key management procedure must be followed, right? So that means, for example, issuing the weak keys, that is also a reason, right? Reissuing the key from different system, or sharing the private keys in place of public keys, right? So proper key management process must be followed so that your data must not be compromised by the attacker, right? Incorrect implementations means even the strong algorithms and even the strong algorithm you are using, but if you are not able to properly implement that particular algorithm on your system, it becomes a weakness, right? It becomes a vulnerability, right? For example, failing to improper randomize attack vector, initialization vector, right? So in this case, the scheme can make the system vulnerable to attacker because you are not able to utilize the properly the strong algorithm, right? Which can be a bug, which can create a bug and can be arise in the programming errors also, right? Which can which can lead to misunderstanding of how cryptographic process works, right? The fourth one is the we can say that the
Bharat,
yes, yes,
sorry. Yeah, there is one question related to this one cryptographic failure thing. If suppose, for example, our public key is open to all, right? So if we
mhm,
are browsing anything, so public key is like shared widely, openly to everyone. So how it is
right.
encrypted? Like how it is secure?
See, see,
Yeah.
see. Whenever you, first of all, whenever you are sharing something with the with other user on internet, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, what you will trying to do, you will try to create a secure tunnel,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah.
Right? So whenever you broadcast your message with your own private key, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yes, with your own private key, you are encrypting a message and you are broadcasting your message to, you will use both the keys, right? Public key and private keys,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Both the keys. If you want to share something with other user, both the keys will be available to that particular person, right? So whenever you are broadcasting that particular packet, right, the only person gets can retrieve the message from your communication who has the private key, right? Once the user gets the private key, then and then only that particular user can access your message, right? Private public key is available to everyone. Public key will not affect you anyway, right? The
Yeah.
most important thing in your communication is the private key, right? Which was kept. And see, the communication with a particular user is the secure tunnel is created once the proper private key between that two users is shared without any kind of error, right? If you are broadcasting your public key, right, it will not affect any of the it will not allow the attacker to retrieve the message with your public key, right? Because you have already created a secure tunnel with your destination with the help of private key with a user B, correct? So
Okay.
right,
So yeah. So
private key is only used to create a secure tunnel between the two users. Simple is that. If you are broadcasting your public key, then it will not affect your communication,
okay.
right?
Hmm.
So private key plays a major role here over here. See, in order to provide a secure communication, right, we use transport layer security,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
In transport layer security, we use private key and public key,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
In order to facilitate secure communication between source and destination, right? We will be using a private keys and public keys
Okay.
between source and destination, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
what it is doing, what in TLS, what it is happening, whenever you are sending a hello message to the server will in response send a hello message, and with that hello message it is sending a certificate, right?
Yeah.
which
Yes. Hmm.
which was identified by the certificate authority of your browser.
Yeah.
It means that the secure tunnel is created with the help of private keys, not the public keys,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Anyways, if you are broadcasting your public keys, it will not affect your communication security of your communication, because the private key is already shared with your destination, right? And the destination is the only one who can decrypt your message, because of that secure tunnel with the help of private keys. Clear?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, okay. So yes, how can we prevent the cryptographic failure? Right. So
Mm.
first of all, as we have discussed that we outdate in place of using outdated algorithm, we use the strong and modern algorithm. Right? Is that simple? We also discussed the we can say that we discussed about the improper management of the key, means secure. So for that, what we can do, we must have the proper mechanism to securely generate, store and distribute the private and public key in this mechanism, which considering the hardware, considering using hardware security system for management of sensitive keys. Right? Means must implement the proper key management mechanism. Right? Regular audits and code reviews are the part of each and every vulnerability. Right? So yes, and the encrypt sensitive data, which ensures that the data is encrypted in both, in whenever in rest and whenever it is in transit, means whenever it is stored on your hardware devices, and whenever you are data transferring on your over internet, it means it is in transit. You must have strong encryption mechanism to encrypt the data, like which can be used with the help of transport layer security when data is in transit mode. Right? Second thing, last thing is the patch management. Right? So patch management is also very important phase, while which keeps the cryptographic libraries and software up to date when we are dealing with the cryptographic failure. Right? So any doubts in cryptographic failure? Any doubts?
No, Bharat.
Is it easy to understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Bharat.
Let's take a break of 10 minutes. Right?
Okay.
We'll back in 11:50.
Mm,
Okay.
Right?
Okay, okay.
11:50, and we'll discuss about the rest of the vulnerabilities. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yes, by I had.
Yes, Harsh.
I was coming back home, so I didn't heard the broken access control properly, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask the examples for static, uh, the dynamic and static approach.
Dynamic and static approach. We have not discussed about that, but we have discussed about the dynamic website and static website.
Sorry, website. Yeah, sorry.
So see, for example, static website is like, suppose you are providing some kind of services, right?
Okay,
And you want that services to be listed on the website, right? That's it.
okay,
I don't want to get any kind of communication with other users, right? I just want to display my services and my product on the website and my contact details and all that. So what I'll do, I'll create one pager website, right? In
mm,
which it contains a home page, means some images, right? About us means about me, what I'm doing, my services and my contact details, right? That's it. It
okay,
means it is a static website, means no one is going to fill any kind of form with me, right? If they want to use my services, what they will do, they will open my website, look into my website, what kind of service I'm providing, and just dial my number, and likewise I will do my business. That is called a static website, right? No
so
form.
it would be just a one page, or kind of a digital brochure.
Yes,
Just the
exactly,
information is
right.
there, nothing else.
Yes, nothing else. It's just
And they
kind of.
couldn't, they cannot select, or go beyond that. They just have to go through that one page and see and
Yes,
contact
yes,
you.
yes,
Okay,
exactly.
understood.
Right. But in dynamic website, right? If you have login page in your website,
Yeah,
right? It means at that time you are going to fill up some kind of form, means per username, password, first name, last name, contact number, email ID, like that, right? So in that case, you have to create one form also, right? Some kind of communication
true.
is also going to happen with the end user. Means suppose I'm getting registered on your website, right?
Website.
So I will also fill up that form. I will also get the email, right?
Yeah,
And also suppose some kind of updation is going, I'm going to introduce some new services or no new product, right? So in static website, right, what happens if I'm going to introduce some new product or new services, right? Again, I need to design that particular page, and again, I need to host on that on my website, right?
website.
But in what happens in dynamic website, right? If you are going to introduce new product or new services, right? In dynamic website, there is something called admin panel, right?
Mm,
Which is someone from back end is managing your website, right? So what I you
true.
need to do, you just need to add there in admin panel there is an option called adding a services or adding a product. You just need to
Yeah,
add that over there in backend in admin panel, and that services or that product will get displayed on your
website.
email
It would
website,
be updated. Yeah,
right? Some kind of communication is happening. Suppose you are providing a kind of job portal services, right? So what is happening, a user will come and see the job posting on your website. They will try to apply on that particular website, right? They will try to
yeah,
fill up the forms. You are going to provide them the username, you are going to provide them password, right? And some kind of communication is happening. You are going, if that particular person has applied on that particular post, you are going to put some kind of update on that, or you are going to provide some kind of progress on that particular job application, right? So this kind of application is called an dynamic application,
dynamic application.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
now,
the last, the
yes,
broken access control.
broken access control.
Yeah,
Broken access control means, suppose I am a user of a company, right?
yeah,
And I'm again giving you the same example of two different departments, right? I'm a person from marketing department, and there is another department called production department,
True.
right? So, for example, I am trying to use the resources of production department, which is not authorized to me because I'm a person from marketing department, right? And I'm trying to use the resources of production department, right,
Production.
which is not authorized to me,
Yeah.
right? So if I am trying to use the resources of other department without any permission, means I am not an authorized person, means illegally I am trying to use the resources of other department, right? This is called a
Yeah.
broken access control. Means broken means the roles and responsibilities, the access which was provided to me, I am going beyond, I'm
Beyond
going to
that,
break, breaking that particular accesses and going beyond my access controls,
access control. True.
right? Means I'm trying to interfere with other departments,
Understood.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So cryptographic failure is also clear to you?
Yeah, somewhat it is.
Somewhat, not somewhat.
Uh,
I've very nicely explained with the example, right?
uh, if you could just go back, I was coming back, so
Okay,
it
no
was a
problem.
bit
I'll
jumping.
I'll
Yeah.
repeat
Yeah.
you once again, right? Cryptographic failure means when you are using cryptography,
When, as you mentioned, the public key and private key,
means some
then
kind of mechanism,
mechanism.
security mechanism is happening in your
Yeah.
website, right? Means if you are, it occurs when mm, cryptographic mechanism is not intended to protect your data fail to do so, means it's like leading to potential breach, right? your
Hmm.
your you might have used the weak algorithms, right? Or you might have
Yeah.
used the outdated algorithms.
True.
You might have what we can say, improperly manage your key, right?
Yeah.
Means in place of sharing your public key, you might have shared the private key while designing, while programming in creation of that transport layer security tunnel, right? So such kind of configurations or such kind of outdated algorithm or improper key management may
Was
lead
called
to
the failure.
cryptographic failure, right?
Failure. Understood.
So
Yeah.
in that case, if private key of your tunnel is what we can say revealed in front of the attacker, he might try to get some username and password, or he might try to tamper the data when you are trying to send it to the destination, right? Or
Yeah.
if client and server is sharing some data, and it becomes vulnerable to attackers
Attacker.
to intercept the data and temper that particular data, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So this is what all about cryptographic failure.
Cryptography. And as I did the TLS,
Mm-hmm.
the TLS layer, the research, somewhat like I understood this, but I just wanted to know, like, public key is definitely given by the CA,
Mm-hmm.
but do we have the access of the private key as well?
See, private key, I explained this also in this session. Private keys and public keys are used to create secure tunnel
Yeah,
between source and
between
the
the
destination,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You are not having the access of the private key, right? But
hmm,
when you created the tunnel, right? When
hmm,
you created a transport layer security between source, server and
the
client,
handshake, yeah,
at yes handshake at the time of handshake, some kind of certificate is shared with the client, right?
both users, yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
client verifies that certificate, right? And
true,
use that private keys to create the secure tunnel, and public key is revealed to everyone, right? But
yeah,
the only person who can decrypt that message is the person who has securely connected with the help of TLS, transport layer security protocol, while creating the tunnel. करेक्ट, मीन्स जिसके पास वो
हम्म,
प्राइवेट की से टनल क्रिएट हुआ है उसी
वो
से
ही वेरीफाई कर सकता है।
वही 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 डिक्रिप्ट कर सकता है, इज सिंपली
या
पुट,
हाँ,
राइट.
ओके।
So
हम्म,
this is all about cryptography, right, and transport layer security. So third thing is the SQL injection, right?
it's good. Yeah.
So what is SQL injection? Can you explain me?
Yeah, it was the structured query language.
Mm-hmm.
I also had the topic last time. So there are three types of SQL injections. I don't remember the names perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
blind out something. It
Right.
means the intruder is trying to get the access, but there are three steps. First one is the trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
Then it is the if the if the person is not connected to the internet,
Mm-hmm.
then he tries something. Yeah, so basically there are three ways in which he
Right.
tries to get the access.
So see here, you
Yeah,
the word you must keep in mind is the SQL, right? Structured
SQL.
query
Yeah,
language. Means
yeah,
an attacker is trying to insert some malicious SQL code into the query that an
yeah,
application sends to the database, right? Means
yeah.
SQL is dealing with the database, correct?
Yes.
See, let me show you an example, right? If you can see on the screen, there is a login page, right? Username, password. So this is how the login page looks like, right? But how
Hmm.
this design is created, right? In creation of the design, the developer might use um
Comes
this type of
computer language. Yeah,
HTML language, right?
HTML.
HTML code means this is the username, this is the label name username, right? So
Hmm.
just a moment. Yeah, this is the username and this is the label name username, right? This
Yeah,
is the password where it is label name password. That is the
Hmm.
password, right? This is label name is password, right? Then is there is what I can say input, sorry, input type is equal to text, right? So it mean input type is equal to text means it is using some text box, right, for username. So here it is, there is a text box for username and text box for password. Password means type is equal to password. Password is taking in some this dots format, right? Correct. So this type of form is created with the help of HTML code, right, in order to create
yeah,
this form, right? Now in order to take the input and take it to the database server, right, there is a query running behind the this form. It is look like this. See, see, it's very blurry, right? If you can
Hmm.
read it, see, string
starting
query is
query.
equal to select star from admin where username is equal to text box, password is equal to text box 2, means the password and username text box are this is text box 1, this is username, and this is text box 2, this is the password, right? Text box 1, text box 2, and whatever operation that you want to do, that can be written over here, right? This is the format where we are going to this is like the SQL query works, correct?
Yeah,
So what is happening in SQL injection? An attacker is trying to modify or trying to inject some kind of SQL malicious SQL code to send data to the server,
Hmm.
right? So this happens when user inputs are not properly sanitized or validated, right? Means that it is allowing attacker to manipulate the queries and gain and potentially gain the access of unauthorized access of data and modify the data, right? Once you get the access, right, you can apply the queries like insert into table name, update table name, delete from table name, right? These type of queries can be applied to the database in order to modify or temper the database in an on sub server, right? So how it is working, right? So when an application interacts with database, it is typically constructs an SQL query based on user input, right? For example, a simple login form is there, which might take a username and password entered by a user, right? And then it builds a query like select star from table name where username is text box 1 and password is equal to text box 2. So at that time, attacker may use some kind of a username is equal to 1 and password is equal to 1. Some kind of this type
Slash
of,
one and
right? This type of input can be done by this attacker, right?
attacker.
If username is equal to 1, password is equal to 1. So these type of queries, server might get tricked, right? So if application does not properly sanitize or validate the input characters used in the text box, right? This may lead to an SQL injection, right? So there are, as you have mentioned, like there is three types of SQL injection. One is blind SQL injection, and classical SQL injection, and outbound SQL injection, right? So what are the impact of SQL injection? It may lead to data theft of your database server, right? If an attacker get the access of your data, it can modify, delete, or add his own data to get the access in future, right? Then, and also it can impact to the, it can bypass the authentication also, means attacker can log in as a user and including administrator see, once it get access to the database, he can use any of the login credential to get into the system, right? Due to which and this type of attack can lead to denial of service attack, right? Full system compromise is also one of the implication of SQL injection, right? So data theft, data modification, authentication bypass, denial of service, and the full system compromise are some implications, right? How we can prevent the SQL injection? So first thing is to use the parameterized statements, parameterized queries, right? So what is called the parameterized queries? Means some kind of parameter, some kind of arguments are taken while while creating a query. Means in the backend, you need to just provide the we can say um, mitigation steps to the development team or pen testing team or any other team who is responsible for implementing these steps, right? So so you need to use the parameterized queries in order to prevent the SQL injection, right? In preparing the parameterized queries, like so it must have the statement like execute username and password type of arguments must be passed while creating that particular queries, right? Second thing is using stored procedures, right? So stored procedure is the pre-compiled SQL statements, right? So what is happening in stored procedure in database that it can help user to reduce the risk of SQL injection, right? As they enforce the parameterized input, right? And third thing is the input validation is the another step which can be applied to our application in order to validate the user inputs and username and password in order to avoid the. Please mute yourself if you are speaking. Hello. So and the fourth thing is we can provide a least privilege principles. Means each and every user must not be allowed to access the database. Only administrator must have access to the database of the server, right? So we can provide the least privilege access to the employees in our organization, right? So these are certain steps. This is how we can mitigate the.
हेलो
Yes.
हाँ
Hello.
हाँ हेलो हाँ
Harsh, please mute yourself.
No, Yash bhai.
Yashu bhai.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, sir. Right. So this is how we can implement what we can say mitigation steps of SQL injection, right? Is it clear to all of you? Hello.
Yes, Bharat.
Please
Yeah.
ask if you have any doubts, right? Please search on your Google Chrome also regarding these whatever things we are discussing, right? The
Yes.
next topic is the insecure design, right? So insecure design is like it's a kind of vulnerability. It's a loophole in designing the system or software, right? So the product that can lead to the security issues or exposed to the particular potential attacks, right? So what is happening in this type of attack? These vulnerabilities often arise from the design decision, right? So they do not adequately or sufficiently consider the security implications properly in design while designing the your software system, right? So first one is the lack of security principles, means that the design that does not allow establish security principle like privilege access, least privilege access, or defense in the depth, or fail safe defaults are applied to the security systems, right?
Is
Thank,
only one person can assess.
exactly, right, right. So the next thing is the failing to validate the user input, right? Means if your system is not see, whenever you are in whenever you fill up some kind of form, right? So when you are putting some email address, right? So if you put some random characters on the text box of that email address, it will suggest you that please write the proper format of email. Have you seen that? Right? Means that bharat.machi@gmail.com is my email address, and I'm like writing like bharat.machi #gmail.com, right? So at that time the user must get prompt your email address is not in the proper format, right? Whenever you are entering password like Bharat123, so you must get notified on your login form that your password does not meet the criteria, means your password must not contain um, is not containing the uh,
Characters.
ca-
The
uh,
base.
capital character or special character or numbers and something like that. This is called input validation, right? So while designing so at the time of designing your application or your login form, right, what you should do, you must apply some kind of validation on that. You must provide the part of password complexity of this type of this number of characters, one special character, one capital character, and one number and one small character, right?
Mm.
And also whenever you are entering your email address, you must get prompt like if you have not entered email address in proper format, right? So it will give you the error if you while submitting the form that your email address is not in proper format. So this is called input validation. So this type of input validation must be applied to the required fields in the form of your web application, correct?
Yes.
This is an example of improper design. Now the second thing is the poor authentication and authorization, means that insecure design might include weak authentication, means password must be uh, in my application I have the requirement like means password must be 12 character, and if a user trying to add the password with 10 characters and it is accepting that password, it means it is an loophole, it is an weakness, right? So improper authorization, right? So at that time, insufficient access control, improper data handling of the user roles and permission are a part of this authentication and authorization. Correct? Is it clear to you?
Yes, yes, Bharat.
So how can we mitigate these? So there are certain steps, like first of all, we need to provide the least privilege access to the user. Means the amount of access must be minimum to the user in order to perform their task, right? It means we should not we should not provide all the resource access to all the resources. Minimize the level of access of the resources to that particular user, right? So this is how we can mitigate the uh, insecure design. Also, threat modeling. We should also conduct a threat modeling, right? Means identify potential threat and vulnerabilities while designing your web application, right? Analyze how attackers might you exploit your weaknesses, and design the mitigations steps accordingly, right? We should also implement the input validation on the fields where required, right? Proper encoding and proper decoding and error handling is also must be applied to your web application. Authentication and authorization is common in every type of vulnerabilities, right? Whenever you are dealing with some critical data, right? Highly confidential information, right? So you must implement proper encryption standard like TLS or SSL in your system, right? For preventing it from the unauthorized access, right? So these are certain mitigation steps we should keep in mind while designing the web application, right? So this is the steps to improve mitigate the insecure design vulnerabilities. Is it clear? Hello, is it
Yes,
clear
sir.
to all of?
Yes, Bharat. Yes.
Okay, right. So now the second thing is the security misconfiguration. Have you heard about this misconfiguration?
Misconfiguration is like, I guess, while designing or while making, the configure is not proper.
Right,
There's
right. See,
loopholes, I guess.
right. So see, in order to your some application to run perfectly on your system, right? We need to provide some kind of some configurations, right? So it occurs when system or application is incorrectly configured, right? Leading to vulnerability or loophole which can be exploited by the attackers, right? So misconfiguration can affect various components, right? In order to facilitate your website to run on server, we need to manage some kind of configuration on the server, right? Like if we want to host some website, right, on our server, right? So in order to host your website, we have to configure IIS server on the server, on the system, right? If there is, if we for example, we are using firewall in our, please mute, hello, right? So for example, you are using some firewall in your system, in your application, right? So you have to configure some inbound and outbound rules in order to filter the traffic, right? If you are not able to manage those type of configurations, right, it may lead to all the traffic is coming to your web application on your server. All the requests will come to you, right, without filtering and all that. So it can affect your server, database, your cloud services, your network devices and application. Correct? So in order to avoid such kind of unnecessary traffic, what we will do, we will configure firewall. Also, we will configure some kind of we can say the inbound and outbound rules which will filter out the traffic, and only necessary request will come to your server, which will avoid unnecessary request on your server and database, right? So this is all about what we can say the security misconfiguration. How can we mitigate this security configuration? Means secure configuration management. So at the time of designing, we should change the default username, passwords, and configurations immediately after installation, right? So for example, I have created one user who wants to access some resources in my environment, right? So I have created one user, I have provided them password, right? So what the user will do, once you create for the first time login, it will ask you to change the current password, right? So you have to give your current password and you have to provide the password as per your configuration, right? So this is one of the way we have. You ever tried to keep the same password as earlier provided by the system, right?
Yeah,
No,
it will not take.
right? It will not allow you to put keep the same password. You have to change it,
Yeah.
right? So you have to change the default username and password for eliminating the security misconfiguration or mitigating the security misconfiguration, right? So second thing is the least privilege access, right, which ensures that the user and services are only available to to the person who are permitted to use these services based on their roles and responsibilities, correct? So that there must be an administrator who restrict the access of the resources of the administrative interfaces, right, like VPNs and all that, right? So regular patching and updates are also a part of mitigating the security misconfiguration, right? Error handling and logging and monitoring is also a part of this. Firewall rules, see, already I discussed, like we need to properly configure the incoming and outgoing inbound and outbound rules in order to restrict the access of the resources by the IP address on your system, right? So these are certain what we can say the security rules needs to be followed while in order to improve the security of your web application by eliminating the security misconfiguration, correct?
Yeah, Bharat, but how we can detect like this is misconfigured or something?
Means I didn't get you, can you?
How we can detect this is misconfiguration? There is misconfiguration in the system or something.
So for example, you are working as a system
Mm.
web application tester,
Yeah.
right? So what's your
Mm.
duty, right? What you will do, if there is a login page in your system in your web application, right? So what you will do, you will start entering random username and random password,
Yeah.
right? If you are working in an organization,
Mm. Mm.
right, is it legitimate to use the random username and password?
No.
No,
Mm.
right? So at that time, you will raise one request that your login page is accepting random username and random password, which should not be the case,
Yeah.
right? So what they will do, they will try to do. For example, you tried username as ABCD12345, right? In a company, should a username anyone is having the username ABCD12345? No, right?
Mm.
Right. So your username must be proper. Means in company we might be using Bharat.machi, or you might use the some legitimate names and all that, right?
Yeah.
Correct. In password you are trying in password you check like you entered 111111 10 times, right?
Mm.
And system accepted that password, right? So it should not be the case. right? Your password must be in proper format, like it should contain one capital letter, it should contain one small letter, it should
So,
contain,
yeah.
it should contain one special character, it should contain some,
Mm.
right? So this is how you need to check, right? Suppose you have hosted your website on a server, and you have configured your firewall, right?
Mm.
So what is the duty of firewall? If you just install firewall on the perimeter of your web application, it will not start working. Like, you have to provide some kind of configuration, you need to provide some inbound rules, you need to provide some outbound rules, right? This configuration will help you to restrict the traffic. Means that I want certain users or certain people only to access my website, right?
Hmm.
I want that uh, no, IP address from Tor browser must not access my website. Tor browser is a special browser used to access the dark web,
Dark
right?
web. Yeah.
Correct. So I will design in our inbound rule that a user who is using the Tor browser must not access my must not get into my website. So at the moment when your firewall detects that IP address from Tor browser, it will automatically block that particular IP address. Correct? Right?
Yes.
So these
Mm.
type of inbound and outbound rule must be configured while you are working with firewalls. It's not like you have installed firewall and it will start doing its job, but it's on own, right? You have to design some rules, policies, some outbound rules, inbound rule in order to restrict the users from your company as well as from outside. Correct?
Yeah, Bharat, yes.
Clear to you?
Yeah.
Now the next thing is the vulnerable and outdated product, right? So means if you are using in your server, if you are using some outdated components, right? It is already a loophole for your system, which could a lack of which, suppose for example, you have used a product which uh, Windows 7, sorry, Windows XP, right? You have used a operating system called Windows XP on your server, right? But Microsoft has already discarded that software and stopped the support to the Windows XP, right? And you are still using that system because, see, why they have Microsoft has introduced Windows Vista or Windows 7, because there are certain loopholes into the in XP, right? You might have heard about the operating system Windows XP. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right?
Yes, yes.
So there are certain loopholes that were encountered by the Microsoft, and they have stopped using Windows XP from their device, from all the device, and they have introduced Windows Vista or Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11, right? So certain kinds of updation are already being is created by the Microsoft, and they have stopped using those resources, right? And you are still using the Microsoft XP on your server. It means certain vulnerabilities are already there, and it is already at the risk when you are using these resources. Correct? So when you are using outdated resources, outdated component, it is already vulnerable, and you are not going to get any kind of support. And if you claim claim such kind of claim for such kind of resources, Microsoft will not going to take the responsibility, because they have already announced that we have stopped using Windows XP in our systems, and we have already published a notice for all the users. Correct? So this issue common in software development, right? For example, on daily basis you are getting some notification on your system like Java update available. Are you getting? Or your Dell support driver missing, please install. Are you getting such kind of notifications on your system?
It's kind of phishing or malware.
No, it's not a
It-
phishing or
Like
malware.
phishing, but there are sometimes, these kinds of fraud emails also coming. Like if we just click on them and then there is nothing to be updated or fixed.
Yes, right, Harsh. So
Yeah.
that is not the topic here at the moment,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
If you are using the Dell laptop, you will get the notification like the driver outdated, please install or update the driver, right?
Yeah.
If you are not updating that driver or if you are not updating that patch, it will be a loophole which can be utilized by the attackers, right? So if you need to take care of using the components in your systems, whether it is vulnerable or outdated, you have to stop those using those components, right? So risk of using, what are the risk of using outdated products, right? It's the security vulnerabilities, means it becomes very, if you are using the older version, the vulnerabilities are already mentioned, right? So attackers can get the chance of exploiting those particular vulnerabilities, right? And can get the access, right? Or for example, some patches, uh, there might be some, what we can say, some patches in your Windows operating system, some vulnerabilities in Windows operating system, and Windows have already uh, released the patch that please install this patch in order to mitigate this vulnerability, and you have by mistake you have not installed that particular vulnerable patch. It will be a vulnerability for an attacker, right? Second thing is the risk is the lack of support. Means if you are using the outdated components, you will not get the proper support for those particular components, right? Means if you are using still outdated product, you are going to it is going to affect your performance, right? Efficiency of the system, which may leading to performance issue and increase the resource consumption also, right? And if you are using this outdated products, outdated components, right, you are you are misleading, or we can say you are not following the regulatory compliances which was already designed by the company or the industry, right? So these are certain factors must be kept in mind while you are using the outdated components or vulnerable components, right? So how can we mitigate that, right? So first and foremost thing is the inventory assessment. Means you must assess your inventories. Means whatever components, whatever software that you are using, you must do the assessment, right? Means these are the systems that we are using, and these are the software that we are using, these are the libraries, right? And these are the components, right? If these components I'm using, these libraries I'm using, these systems I'm using, they must have to be properly compliant with the proper updates and proper installation of the patches, right? So that the vulnerabilities must be removed from those particular devices, right? Again, the use of support component, right? Supported, right? Means the vendors who have ensures that which the components are actively supported by the vendor by their vendors, and with the regular updates and patches update. Means you must stop using the components which are not supported by the vendors, right? You have to use the components which are supported by the vendors. In future, if you come across if you need any kind of service, you can directly reach out to the vendors, and you can resolve whatever vulnerabilities that you are facing, right? The fourth thing is you must use the security testing and validation, right? Means conduct the regular testing, security testing, like pen testing or vulnerability assessment, right? See, in most of the company, in 100% companies, they are using, what they are doing, they are doing audit reports of their infrastructure, right? Which will help them to gather the information like their system does not have any kind of vulnerability, right? And identify the and if they have the some kind of vulnerabilities, they can easily identify and mitigate some mitigation rules must be applied to that particular vulnerabilities, right? Correct. If you are facing some vulnerable components and you are facing some issues, you can also deploy the incident response plan, right? If you have developed the incident response plan, it becomes very easy to deal with that particular issue or that particular vulnerability, right? So these are some, what we can say, the ways, these are some steps through which we can identify and mitigate the vulnerable and outdated components. Is it clear to you?
Yes, bhai.
Is it easy to understand?
Yeah.
Because I'm using very simple language, right, in order to make you understand this terminologies,
Yes.
right? See, basic intention behind learning these vulnerabilities are, see, most of the incident that you are going to trigger on your SIEM software, SIEM tool, is some or the other way is going to link with this. You have to suppose you get the brute force attack, right? You just need to gather the information like what are the implication of brute force attack, what infrastructure it can damage, and what are the mitigation steps. That's it. If you know about these type of vulnerabilities and these type of incidents are coming in your environment, it becomes easy for you to provide the mitigation steps. Clear?
Yes, bhai.
So these OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities are the most important topic when you are working in cybersecurity domain, right? In interview questions also, they are asking like, what is OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities? Can you please name those vulnerabilities, explain any one of them,
Okay.
right? This is the
Mm,
most commonly asked questions in the interview,
Okay.
right? Identification and authentication failure is the next topic. Still we have 20 minutes, right? Let's finish it. Only 4 topics are there, right? So identification and authentication means I'm identifying the user, and once the identification is successful, I'm authorizing that user. I'm authenticating that user and authorizing the user. As simple as this, right? Means what is happening, it refers to the vulnerability or weakness, right, in the process that used to verify the identity of the user, right? Means these failures, once these identification fails, which can lead to the unauthorized access or data breach or full system compromise, and it may lead to other security incidents, right? So addressing these failures involves implementing robust practices like and technologies to ensure the authorized individuals are only can have access to the protected resources, right? So why it is happening, right? Why identification and authentication failure is happening? It's all because of weak password, right? Bharat 123. These type of simple password is very easy to crack by the attacker, right? It takes seconds for a tool to guess this type of password, right? Second thing is lack of multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. If you have not implemented two-factor authentication, right, A user, if your password is, what we can say, password is revealed to the attacker, right? But you have implemented multi-factor authentication, right? It becomes nearly impossible for user to get access to your account, correct? But if you have not implemented two-factor authentication, right, and the password is revealed to the attacker, it will not ask for further authentication. It will directly give access to the access to your account, correct? So lack of multi-factor is also two-factor authentication is also one of the reason for authentication failure, right? Next thing is the improper session management, right? Failure to manage the session properly, right? Which includes the not expiring. See, whenever you are login into the bank application, right? So what is happening after finishing all your work, you log in into the bank application, it will start the session. Once you log out from the from your account, it will end the session, right? But by mistake you logged out, but the session is not terminated, right? But it means that the session is still going on, right? So if those session IDs were captured by the attacker, it becomes very easy for attacker to get access to your bank account,
Yes.
right? So there must be a proper session management must be there, right? It must start the session properly, and it must terminate the session properly, right? In order to avoid the unauthorized access. Weak authentication mechanism, right? Means that using outdated or vulnerable authentication protocol or outdated algorithm to protect the to protect the data, right? So these are some reasons behind these identification and authentication. In order to mitigate, these are the simple steps that we have already discussed. Like we should implement a strong password policy. We should implement multi-factor authentication, right? We must implement the session management properly, right? In order to avoid the must manage the starting of the session. It must manage the termination of the session in order to avoid the unauthorized access, right? So these are certain steps that can be followed in order to avoid for authentication failure and identification, right? Correct? Is there
Yes.
any doubt in this? Is it clear to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Software and data integrity failure, right? Data integrity means
Trustable or reliable source.
exactly, right? Trustable and reliable means whatever data is sent from the source must be same at when it received at the destination,
Definitely.
right? So what is happening over here? Uh, an attacker, suppose I'm requesting some your resources from the server, right? And a man in the middle try to get the access, mean tamper the data, and some other results were sent to me. At this moment, integrity is not maintained, right? So it compromises the accuracy and reliability and trustworthiness of the data, right? So
Mm.
these failure can result in various factors like unauthorized modification or data corruption or vulnerability within the software. A man in the middle trying to compromise the data, trying to tamper the data, and then send to the destination, right? So these type of implication can be happen, right? So how attacker is utilizing this vulnerability means they will try to inject some code, right? Like in SQL injection or command line injection, right? Which can alter the and corrupt the data from the server, right? Unverified software updates, right? Means suppose you get the notification, as Harsh just discussed right now, that we are getting some kind of phishing email to update your software
Malware.
and all that, right? And you just realize that you received a phishing email, and you realize that it is email from Microsoft, and you updated that particular software from that link. It means it will create a vulnerability in your system, right? So software sources must be verified, right? Data corruption means files may be corrupted due to hardware failure or software failure or malicious attacks and all that, right? Or some kind of ransomware attack, and that will create file corruption in your systems, right? APIs APIs without integrity controls means API means application program interface, right? So what APIs have certain capabilities to verify the integrity of the data, means they have integrity controls already inbuilt, right, which checks the integrity of the data, which allows unauthorized modification, right? So how we can mitigate? First of all, we can implement the data input validation, means proper input validation must be applied. Verifies the software update patches from the reliable sources, right? We should only update the sources, use the update sources which is having the trusted sources and digital signature verified, right? We should in order to check the integrity check, we should apply the checksum or hash codes, right? Secure data transmission. For secure data transmission, we should implement the TLS and SSL algorithm in order to avoid the tampering of data, correct? And implement the strong API security. So these are certain steps in order to implement the security in software and data integrity failures, right? Second last thing is the security login and monitoring failure, right? Security login and monitoring failures means suppose someone is trying to log in into the system, and system is due to there is some suspicious login is happening in your environment, and the monitoring system is not able to send the notification to the administrator that some kind of illegal or suspicious activity is happening in your environment, right? So in such cases, proper monitoring tool and proper monitoring device must be implemented, like intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system must be installed on your server, so that these type of monitoring and notification must be sent to your administrator in case of suspicious behavior of the security login, right? Correct. So why it is happening, the security login and monitoring failure, why it is happening? It's due to insufficient data collection, means critical events and activities may not be logged in, or leading to insufficient visibility into the system or operating systems, right? Log retention issues means suppose, for example, you have your server, and you have configured your server, and there is some users who are trying to access your resources, you are trying to access your website, right? Those logs must be stored at some place in your system, so that you can easily do the forensic investigation and try to get some artifacts of illegal or suspicious activities happening in your environment, right? So that it becomes easy to track that suspicious behavior of the login activities and all that, right? So in order, so proper analysis, poor analysis of and responses, right? We have already discussed that, like we can there must be a proper system who can analyze the logs, who can analyze the suspicious behavior, and who can easily easily notify to the administrator regarding this suspicious behavior, right? So in order to mitigate these type of failures, we need to define a login requirement, right? Comprehensive login and log collection policies must be designed properly in order to investigate or forensic investigation of those logs and all that, right? Implement the log management. Centralized log system must be implemented. Whatever logs are generated in our system, there must be stored at some centralized system in order to analyze in future. We can implement IDS, IPS, or SIEM tool to collect, store, and analyze the logs, right? And later we can notify it to the administrator due to some suspicious behavior and all that, right? Last thing is the server side request forgery, right? Server side request forgery means it is related to some sessions, right? So what is happening? For an example, there is one bank application, right? Whenever I try to log in into the website, bank application, it is with my username and password, it is managing a session, right? Once I log in into the system, it will start the session. Once I log out from the session, it will stop the session, means it will terminate the session, right? So how it is happening over here? So it allows an attacker to make unauthorized requests. Means, for example, whenever I put some request from my account to a bank server, a man from the middle try to capture the session ID of mine, and it behaves like that. Attacker is behaving like a customer to the server. Whatever activities that attacker want to carry out with the help of that session ID and session token, it becomes easy for attacker to access those resources, and whatever data, whatever operation he wants to do, he can transfer the money, he can purchase anything, he can do whatever he wants, right? So how it works means it is exploiting the trust relationship by capturing the session ID and session tokens, right? So in order to mitigate these type of server side request forgery, right, we will try to, first of all, we will try to do the input validation, right? We will try to restrict the URLs to to what they can say, they reveal the URL of the bank on the URL bar, right? And restrict the users from modifying that particular queries on URL bar. We can also change or modify the firewall rules, like inbound and outbound rules, like which controls the services and can be accessed by the server and prevent the unauthorized request, right? Monitoring and audit reports are the one of the major activities that can be carried out in the companies, right? So this will help the company to analyze and monitor the logging activities, detect and alert the suspicious behavior in the environment, and right, and avoid the unauthorized request to be blocked by the administrator, right? Sometimes we need to also apply the security patches, right, in order to avoid the SSRF and all that, right? So this is all about the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities and its mitigation steps, right? So I'm assigning you the task for you that please prepare a document which explains each and every vulnerabilities, right? It's why it is, how it is happening, and its mitigation steps. Correct? This is your assignment about this week, right? So what is the reason behind learning these vulnerabilities, right? So whenever you are dealing with the security incident in your SIEM, in security information and event management tool, right? So whenever you are dealing with the security incident, you are going to come across a kind of vulnerabilities that can be exploited by the Attacker. Attacker is going to exploit out of these 10 vulnerabilities only, right? You suppose, for example, if a user is trying to do some brute force attack, correct? Brute force attack means he's trying some password and trying to break the access and wants to access the resources, right? So it directly comes under broken access control, right? If you are thorough about the broken access control and someone is trying to do brute force attack on your environment, you can straight away notify to your team that someone is trying to do or breaking some access control in your environment. These are the mitigation steps. You can immediately enforce these steps in your environment in order to secure your computer networks, right? So attacker is, these are the 10 most common vulnerabilities, and some or the other ways you are going to deal with the any kind of vulnerabilities in your security monitoring incidents, right? So that's why it's very important to learn about the vulnerabilities and all that, correct? Right. So I hope this session is quite informative to all of you, and it's highly important in it will be the base for all the upcoming sessions, right? I hope it is clear to you. If you come across any doubts, any queries, please let me know, right? And we will discuss it out. If you, I will also arrange a doubt clarification session on Saturdays, right? We will discuss these things Saturday also, right?
Yeah, thank you,
So
Bharat. So,
yeah,
Bharat, in assignment, we have to like create the topics like how is it happening and what else you said another one?
see, you
Yeah.
have to prepare the list of 10 these 10 vulnerabilities, suppose,
Yes.
and you
Mm-hmm.
have to explain all the vulnerabilities. See, you have taken the broken access control, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
to do all the, right? I'm just giving the example. First one is the broken access control. What is broken access control, right? How
Mm-hmm.
it is happening, and
Mm-hmm.
what are the mitigation steps,
Okay.
right? If next topic is cryptographic failure, what is cryptographic failure, how it is happening, and its mitigation steps. SQL injection, what is SQL injection, how it is happening, and its mitigation steps.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, you have to do it for all the 10 vulnerabilities.
Yes.
What is the full form of OWASP?
Online web application uh, security procedure. Yeah.
Open Web Application Security
Open
Open
web
Project.
security project. Yeah.
Right, it is the most commonly asked question in the interviews also, right? When I started giving interviews as a for security analyst, right? These are the questions that were asked to me. What are the what is OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, right? Explain any one of them. What are the what is ports, and what are the most commonly used port numbers, and what are the protocols that are working on, right? What is CIA trides, confidentiality, integrity, availability, right?
Yeah.
So these are the most commonly asked questions in interviews also.
So each one of us have to do all the 10.
Yes, each one of you have to do all the 10.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So any doubts till here?
No, but I just wanted to
Me?
ask, uh,
Yes, yes.
as you have been in this industry for a long time, maybe a decade or now, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe happening.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hack someone's profile ID or anything?
Me,
Yeah.
I have not hacked, but I have prevented. See, my job is to defend the defensive activity, not an offensive activity, right? So if someone is trying to access my profile, access my resources without my permission, right? So I must be there who is keeping track of the suspicious behavior, right? And see, one incident happened with me in my previous company, like, so I have already explained you that, right? That our IP address from
Like
Russia
from a
is
US company or something, I guess.
yes, compromise the credential of the account manager, and they tried to they it was account manager's account, and the credit card is already linked with the user resources, right? So what happened, once the credit card is linked with your Azure resources, and you start purchasing the resources, it will not ask for the OTP and authentication, right? It will directly purchase the resources. And it was a company account, right? Company account has the limit in terms of $50,000 or 1 lakh dollar or something like that, right? So the credit card was linked with the account manager's ID, right? And that IP address IP address from Russia compromised the Mohammed Junaid's account, right? And just started purchasing a virtual machine. So whatever resource you want, suppose I want a virtual machine on your on Azure cloud, right? Its configuration is Windows 10 i5 processor, 16 or 32 GB RAM, and 500 GB SSD hard drive. So it costs some, right? It costs about dollars, in terms of dollars and all that, right? So it purchased one virtual machine with the account of Mohammed Junaid, right? And I logged in my system, and I found that there is one incident triggered with the IP address, right, on the account of Mohammed Junaid, right? And it started purchasing Azure resources on. So how did I got the information that it started purchasing Azure
Russia.
resources? Azure resources. I
Yeah.
checked the audit logs, right? Whatever activities you are doing on Azure resources, it will get captured under audit logs, correct? So I could see that that IP address with the name of the Mohammed Junaid account purchased one virtual machine on Azure resources, right? And that IP address is from Russia, right? And it directly purchased without any OTP authentication and all that. If I have not triggered that incident to our administrator, it could have purchased the firewalls, it could have purchased the more machines and all that, right? So this is how I could save the client environment by unauthorized access of the users, correct?
No, if you want to hack someone's ID or basic, just for an example, can you do that? Like after so many years or practice,
See,
maybe.
that's what I'm saying. Key the hacking is a part of offensive security, and
Yeah.
I'm specialized in defensive security.
Okay.
All right. So to do that, I can do, that's not an issue, right? But there for that I need to learn some tools and all that, right? I have worked on a tool which could capture the data of user phones, right? Including WhatsApp detail, including camera images and all that. And for that I used one security tool called Stormbreaker, right?
Heard of it.
Stormbreaker I have configured using on my Ubuntu system, and I have configured that on my system. And once the suppose for example I want to access, I need the data of your phone on my server. So I just use your phone number, right? I use your phone number, and you need to provide some kind of authentication. Like whenever you install one application, you in your phone you get the notification like allow allow
Notification,
application to access your image or your
camera,
camera.
images, media.
Yes. So once you allow that particular notification in your phone, I can easily use your camera.
Okay.
I can get your WhatsApp chat on my server. So all the photographs will started coming on my device.
So the game applications or anything which we are downloading at the moment and which we are giving the permission and accessing, they have the access to media and camera.
Yes,
They can definitely
exactly.
hack.
Whatever applications that you are installing in your mobile and you are allowing them to access your contacts, your galleries, they can easily retrieve the data from your phones and all that. Right?
So kind of hackers are also not safe in terms of hacking. They can
They
also be hacked.
they are using their specialized infrastructure like VPNs and all that, right? So that's why they are also
They
safe.
would be protective. They would like,
Yeah,
but
they
then
will.
also they can
Yeah,
be.
yeah, they will keep some security measures on their part. They will try to use their private VPNs, right? In order to they might be more active on dark web using Tor browser and all that, right? So that's why it becomes difficult to track the hackers also. Yeah, but yeah, it's not like it's impossible to track them, right? It takes some time, but it can be done, right? So thank you for joining the call today, right? It's been almost more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So if we have some use cases, some case studies, we will definitely discuss in the upcoming lectures and all that, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So thank you very much for joining the call. We will get on a call on Saturday with some doubt clarification.
Yeah. And but so next week we'll start our studies in the practical.
Yes, almost we will going to start some kind of practicals from next sessions.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Bharat.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
everyone.
everyone for
Bye. Take
bye.
care.
Take care.
Bye.